So now we'll talk about a few configurations from the UI. The most important of this is the system settings, and this is the simplest way to configure DXP. You can do it through the UI. And in the control panel, you can configure many of Liferay's properties and settings. And settings configured in the system settings can be exported as zip folders containing config files so that you can transfer these settings to any instance easily. Then you have the instance settings, and these are applied to only your specific instance. So you can provide details that correspond with the specific instance, and you can configure authentication and authentication servers in this. So there's also a default data. Liferay bundles come out of the box with a large amount of default data. The first time you start DXP, several of the necessary tables and data are generated by a database script. Core applications also generate default data, including dynamic data lists, documents and media, web content templates, and application display templates. Then there's also default locations for data and application storage. We have the hypersonic database, the document repository, core applications, feature application suites, custom applications, marketplace applications, and the default configuration. All documents uploaded to Liferay are stored in a document repository located on a disk, and production systems usually offload this location to a network shared SAN or similar location. We can also configure locales and time zones through the settings. Properties associated with Liferay are the properties that control the locales and time zones. Three scopes to consider when setting up locales include making it instance-wide or site-wide or just for an individual user. And you can configure this in instance settings and then user settings. The time zones across all of your servers should be the same, so you can have flexibility when you're just doing instances or users. We also can configure documents and media. So each site on Liferay has its own documents and media repository. The documents binary data is stored in the document repository, and then document repositories can take advantage of various file stores, including the simple file system store, advanced file system store, DB store, and S3. Then we come to configuring applications. There are several contexts in which you can configure an application. There's three application suites: web experience management, collaboration, and business productivity. And then we have a few scopes in the UI. So this is system settings, a default configurations on all sites, and default configuration for applications. And so this is growing in specificity based on each of these level of scopes. Knowledge check. The simplest way to configure DXP is through the UI. The first time you start DXP, several necessary tables and data are generated by a database script. System settings allow admins to configure the majority of Liferay's properties, while instance settings allow admins to configure settings for their specific instance. And each site on Liferay has its own documents and media repository.